Good morning. These will be two additional videos to the 62 video series called Psychometric Science. These are two additional components that I was not sure about when or if to add to it. I realized they'll be months apart. Um, to give you an analogy, sometimes you have a choice about what pieces of something to leave in and what choices to leave out. So let's say you had the necessity or honor of killing an animal to eat it. When you get to the organs, let's say you shot this out in the woods. You get to the organs, you have two basic choices. One is to leave a package of organs for animals in the wild to consume, or if you have a desire or capacity to make things with them because they are food, you can take them back to your dwelling and produce them differently with greater effort as edible food. Because so much of it either uh, has to be cooked very, very carefully or has to be cooked over a very long period of time. So in the same fashion, these are a couple of small things related to psychometric science, had to do with alpha and beta ideas related to the APSO grid. So what happens exactly if an alpha has such an overwhelming desire to have that beta in dynamic with him? Usually him, sometimes her, is the who that alpha is. It's speaking in broad generalizations. You can have a situation where that alpha is not the alpha to a beta, or the alpha to an army of betas, an alpha to a whole conglomerate of people. Now, I believe that the wiring to be a beta or an alpha is inside of someone, and they're trying to get that dynamic with, at the very least, their closest, most intimate relationship, and perhaps other relationships in their life. But I believe when you have an alpha who has a desire to be an alpha of far greater dominion than one beta, you have a dictator. You have a Joseph Stalin, you have a Genghis Khan. We know that Genghis Khan not only decimated many enemies in their nations, he actually prevented his soldiers from consummating their marriages with their own wives, so that he could spread his seed throughout all of the women of his empire. And so he was a the alpha to this huge empire of people. Um, and no one person could be perceived as his beta or perceived as his wife. Um, so what happens then in the case of this alpha of many concept is the beta is many people, but it's impersonal to them. And the alpha is trapped in huge amounts of unnatural amounts of responsibility. You will see this as a person raises an amount of power to unnatural amounts of power. That is, we may claim to disapprove of world leaders and their infidelity, but on a subconscious psychometric level, we kind of all go, well, that's what happens when you have that much power. People throw themselves at you to some extent, not always. Now, while we morally may disapprove, it is a byproduct of having so much power, having the ability to be an alpha over so many people, that the byproduct is there is no individual person who is their other half. It creates a bifurcation that is a complete separation of two things that ought to be connected. Um, it separates that alpha beta dynamic from pair bonding, so that the alpha desire for a alpha male desire for a beta wife, or vice versa, an alpha female's desire for a beta husband, is bifurcated because his desire, this hypothetical alpha's desire to be the alpha over this large dominion of people, it totally devalues the notion of their spouse. Which is why, we have this societal contradiction, when we're ashamed or embarrassed about kings and presidents and their, as I said, their shenanigans. But we know that that's what it creates. If he has the power to claim and mate with hundreds or thousands, then it would be only spiritual character that would make him stop. It would be only something within him greater than fallen human nature that would cause him to do anything different. And it would mean that by nature, for the most part, the spouses of these people are merely figureheads as opposed to a spouse in the sense that we'd understand it in the case of this alpha of many.